Okay, so let's start. First of all, let me welcome to the first 2022 Minerva Lab seminar, and thank you to Zaida Muxi to be here, of course. So before leaving the floor to Claudia that will coordinate the event, let me remind you that the meeting will be recorded. I just started the recording and will be available online in the YouTube page of Minerva Lab, where you can find all and most of all our previous events. Moreover, for those of you who still do not know us, Minerva Lab is a laboratory on diversity and gender inequality based in the Department of Statistics of Sapienza University of Rome. It's a transdisciplinary laboratory that carry out multidisciplinary research activities promoting the contaminations between different research fields from economics, architecture, law, history, sociology, demography, statistics, engineering, and so more, with the main aim of contributing to the scientific research and social and policy awareness on gender equality and equity, using both qualitative and quantitative methods. So the strength of Minerva Lab, we can say that is the ability of mobilizing and creating networks or constellations, if you prefer, of experts, researchers, practitioners, local administrators that used to work on gender issues, where gender for all of us is conceived not as a binary dimension, so women versus men, but as a socially constructed dimensions that involves roles, stereotypes, and discrimination. So I'll leave the floor to Claudia for the presentations of the event of today. And of course, if you have questions, you can use the chat that I will moderate, I will try, and or raise your hand and pose questions after we will have a question and answer sessions.
Bene, grazie Giulia. Allora, io sono Claudia Mattonio, sono un'architetta, insegno urbanistica presso la Facoltà di Ingegneria di Roma e parlerò in italiano. Ho il piacere di aprire, di coordinare questi lavori di questo primo seminario di Minerva Lab, di cui faccio parte anch'io. L'occasione di questo primo seminario è scaturita dalla recentissima pubblicazione in inglese del volume che chiamiamo Oltre la soglia, donne, case, città, che vi faccio vedere, eccolo, che è stato scritto nel 2019 da Zaida Muxi, che è un'architetta urbanista che insegna presso la Scuola Tecnica Superiore di Architettura di Barcellona, la città dove abita e dove milita in maniera molto attiva da diversi anni. Questa presentazione di oggi è uno dei tasselli molto preziosi, molto apprezzati, che sono gemmati dalla ricerca Tecniche Sapienti, che io coordino e che è volta a mettere in luce le progettualità femminili. Ed è anche una sorta di continuità, si pone un po' in continuità con l'intervento che Zaida ha fatto al seminario internazionale delle tecniche sapienti che si è svolto nell'ottobre scorso. Lei ha svolto una relazione molto interessante che si chiamava Diventare visibili, guida a un'urbanistica femminista. Ecco, Zaida è una persona che ha svolto conferenze un po' in tutto il mondo, è stata visiting professor in Italia, diciamo, ha un'attività di studiosa molto attenta ai cambiamenti della contemporaneità e ha un occhio particolare verso il ruolo delle donne nella pratica progettuale e nel pensiero teorico. Però si è anche confrontata con degli impegni molto concreti che l'hanno vista come consulente anche per amministrazioni pubbliche di livello locale e regionale. Ecco, questo suo essere coinvolta in prima persona e in maniera attiva mi sembra una caratteristica molto specifica di Zaida, che la ritroviamo anche in attività appunto di pratica militante, ad esempio all'interno del collettivo Punto 6 che ha contribuito a fondare nel 2005. Però Zaida è stata anche una delle fondatrici del blog Un Dia, un'architetta, un blog che svolge un ruolo fondamentale nella diffusione dell'operato delle progettiste, molte delle quali provengono dall'universo delle Americhe del Sud, che noi in Italia forse conosciamo ancora troppo poco. Un blog che risponde a un progetto di diffusione e che è molto, molto ricco di contenuti, ma è anche un blog molto visibile perché ha raggiunto tantissime voci e anche una diffusione molto ampia. Magari un approfondimento su questo blog potrebbe essere utile nel corso della conversazione. Zaida è un'esperta in pianificazione e, come vi dicevo, si interessa particolarmente delle tematiche di genere. Ha scritto numerosi saggi e volumi e ha affrontato dei temi che sono relativi alle relazioni che si sviluppano negli spazi pubblici, nella vita quotidiana, è attenta alle analisi delle trasformazioni nel progetto delle residenze collettive e è attenta anche alle lotte urbane che hanno visto protagoniste in particolare le donne. Se noi prendiamo, non possiamo citare tutti i contributi scientifici di Zaida che sono molto numerosi, però io mi vorrei soffermare su una cosa che mi ha colpito in particolare ed è praticamente il coordinamento di numerose tesi di dottorato, perché secondo me testimoniano l'impegno verso la formazione di giovani studiose e studiose, ma anche sono testimonianza di una capacità di far emergere nuovi punti di vista e nuove narrazioni. Io ne cito tre, lei ne ha coordinate tantissime, ma io ne ricordo tre che mi sembrano molto particolari. Una è stata sviluppata nel 2014 da Adriana Cioccoletto e aveva come titolo L'urbanistica per la vita quotidiana, strumenti di analisi e valutazione urbana alla scala del quartiere in una prospettiva di genere. Un'altra molto interessante è stata elaborata nel 2018 da Daniela Auria Laurino e ha come titolo La costruzione del racconto architettonico e le architetture della modernità, un'analisi femminista della storiografia. E l'altra, molto più recente, del 21, l'ha elaborata Valdivia Gutierrez e ha come titolo La città premurosa, qualità della vita urbana da una prospettiva femminista. Quindi questo mi sembra un tema molto importante. Io vorrei dire che appunto Zaida vive da tantissimi anni a Barcellona, ma è argentina di origine, ha studiato a Buenos Aires architettura e secondo me questa sua capacità, questo suo essere presente in due continenti differenti le dà uno sguardo molto ampio, uno sguardo che va oltre, che va lontano, come oltre era un po' il titolo anche del suo libro, no? Oltre la soglia. Ecco, questo libro ne accenno brevemente perché non tutte forse l'hanno già letto. Secondo quanto racconta lei stessa nelle pagine del libro, è un'idea che è nata molti anni fa a seguito delle letture dei libri di Dolores Hayden. È un'idea che si è formata nel tempo, non aveva subito un progetto molto preciso, ma aveva un obiettivo molto chiaro, che è quello di mettere in luce come le donne siano state nel tempo profondamente coinvolte nelle trasformazioni dello spazio. E quindi, diciamo, questo volume che vi faccio vedere vedete, sono ben 361 pagine, sono molto dense, sono però, devo dire, molto facilmente leggibili, perché sono scritte in maniera molto chiara, molto scorrevole. Il libro è articolato in 8 capitoli, c'è una bella corposa introduzione, c'è un breve epilogo, una ricca bibliografia, un indice analitico dei nomi e 3 brevi pagine di ringraziamento, che sono sempre quelle che si leggono per prime, no? Perché sono un po' gli omaggi, i riferimenti, le connessioni che hanno dato vita, che hanno nutrito la stesura di un libro. Ecco, i capitoli sono composti in maniera tematica, in qualche modo ripercorrono comunque un iter, un ordine cronologico. Io non so se ho tempo, sto parlando da quanto? Da 5 minuti o da 10? Se ho
5.
tempo, 5?
No, 10.
10. Allora ora non, mi ero fatta un breve elenco, ma questo lo lasceremo dire a lei diciamo, dei capitoli. Posso dire soltanto che il testo è molto ricco di nomi, molti dei quali non sono ancora conosciuti, e quindi di questo siamo grate a Zaida per averceli presentati e farli diventare familiari, ed è appunto un contributo, diciamo, utile a questa conoscenza allargata. Il libro però non è né un'antologia, non è una rassegna e non si prefigge di raccontare tutto l'universo femminile, anche se prende in esame 70 figure professionali, 70 donne, quindi è comunque molto corposo. Sicuramente ci sono mancanze, ma questo non ha importanza. Quello che conta è che noi abbiamo davanti veramente un panorama molto ampio, e devo dire che come italiane siamo state ben rappresentate, perché abbiamo Elena Luzzatto, Lina Bo, Stefania Filospeziale, Eghe Trincanato, quindi abbiamo un tributo piuttosto importante. E ecco, quindi io adesso vorrei lasciare la parola a Zaida, ponendole la prima domanda, nel senso di spiegarci un po' come nasce questa idea del libro, qual è il suo perché, il libro come è articolato. Zaida diceva all'inizio che aveva una piccola presentazione, forse potrebbe essere questo il momento per farla vedere, per condividerla con noi e poi dare spazio alle domande. E quindi ogni domanda ha 10 minuti di risposta. Questa è la prima, in qualche modo.
Bene, grazie Claudia. Well, I'm going to try to speak in English and switch Italian. I'm not speak well either of these, but thank you, Claudia, for the very, very nice presentation. So I'm going to show just to begin, but it's not really very important. I want to share with you a few ideas that are in the book. The first one is maybe one of the questions I made in the maybe 2002, 2004, when I finished my doctoral thesis in 2002, and I began to go through all this research, very personal research in different moments, and independent of if I went to, for example, I went to Venice 2 weeks to do a course there, and I went to the library to look for books there about women. But because one of the things of this research is that I'm based in already existing research. I haven't done first-hand material research because I have not the opportunity. So I write about other researchers. I based on another researcher. So one of the things is that women, we are not present in any history, in any, as I say in the book, that as in other areas of knowledge, the arts, science or politics, women have not been and are still not represented on equal terms, not even fairly based on equal merits. This is why it is so crucial to revisit the history of architecture and cities, rewrite it with women as its protagonists. This is no easy task, mainly due to the disappearing trace of women through history, written according to values and standards that directly exclude women. That is one of the main things that we have to keep in mind, that the values that we use to value a project, history, whatever, is shaped by the experience of men, of white, upper class, and men. So if a scale of values is created through experience, everything outside of it remains unknown, then denied and forgotten. So if it is the values and the experience of men that by means of a patriarchal system establish what is worthy and notable, then half of humanity is sidelined and there is no place for other values, experiences, or knowledges. So it involves readings between the lines. It's not to discover different things, it's to think about what we are reading and questioning where were the women at that moment. In any moment, in any history, in any situation we read about, and there is no women, we have to ask ourselves and the, and the book, where are the women? Why we are not there? And that's because who writes the history finally, are men, and all this, 61, 67, this is a powerful Donald Trump, Philip Johnson, so Reina Baham, Persner, Summerson, but still, it's still like this. This is the Pritzker Prize in 2015, and we have this Alejandro Aravena that seems to be a very a renovation of the Pritzker Prize, but the renovation in only one sense, that is a young man, anything else. But the women, we were present in all the important moments of the architecture. I'm not going to explain who are they, but we have many names. Some of them are well known or are just known, but not as they deserve. And especially all this big congress of architecture in the 20th century, always there were women there. And what is important in the moment of these women were alive in the 20th century, but also in the 19th or before, the women were present and they signed, for example, the projects. For example, in this case, is the Pavilion Fair of Paris in 1937, and it's Aino and Alvar Aalto. But Aino is not in the modern history. It's only Alvar Aalto. Nor Aino, nor Elsa or Lisa, CaSa Makiniemi, his second wife. And as Claudia explained, one of the thesis I direct, I conducted, I work with. This is one of Daniela Arias, and where she proposed in her thesis to analyze from a feminist perspective the mechanism that construct the narrative of history and the way this construction raise the women work. You can find it in the UPC common deposit of thesis. What happened? So making visible the invisible from patriarchal perspective. It is crucial to change the perspective from which we observe ourselves and others, creating new ways of valuing roles and activities that enables us to see and value women in all areas, including architecture and urban planning, both in the recognition, too often the revelation, of women's technical and intellectual contribution to said professions, and in making visible the distinct needs of men and women in the city and the built environment. From different lived realities come different experiences, and thus different data to approach the design solution of any project. I think that this last sentence is really important, especially for the ones who are professors in design or who are practitioners, because it's very important to realize the difference of experiences and the difference of needs to what we have to give answers. The challenge is to build a space without gender of patriarchal order, and so without hierarchies. A space to visualize differences, spaces for everybody, and with all views, experiences, and knowledge equally valued. To redefine the construction of our cities from the experiences and different ways of articulating the reality of women, men, and all kinds of people. To this end, it is crucial to speak of the female world, revealing that in the field of architecture and urban design, the contribution of women have been to both theory and practice, highlighting in particular those that share the common denominator of personal experience as the primary source of knowledge and information. And these are the ones that can be articulated and constructed from a different place. Stating the feminist attached, the personal is political, it is vital to know both the intimate, more private context and the public ones, in order to understand how this personal experience led to the questioning of architectural and urban practices and the development of new approaches. At least I see two reasons to revise the historiography, the theory, the critique, and the practice of urban design and architecture from a feminist perspective. Two reasons that mean another way of doing, another way of seeing, and another way of being. The first is to give a place in the history of architecture and urban planning on their own merits to the women who, before us and from a professional practice, whether official or not, contributed to the construction of our environments and knowledge base. To shine a light on the contribution that women from different experiences and fields of knowledge made to architecture and the city, placing the female experience at the foreground of knowledge. The second is the visibilization of women's experiences and needs, insofar as women have been the notable absence from the decision-making processes behind the building of our environments, in the hands of male experience and knowledge mistakenly considered neutral and universal. Feminism, gender perspective, and the defense of women as source of knowledge do not deny other conditions of subordination, such as social classes, race, religion, or sexuality. However, the discrimination derived from being born female is transversal and thus traverses and affects all other differences. It is important to recognize differences without it involving by any means the inequality seen to this day. And here you have the index of the book, as Claudia explained, is eight chapters, and I go from the scale from the architecture to the urban scale. Each chapter is focusing one scale, and in many chapters also I try to bring some of the ideas that maybe seems to be from a long time ago to nowadays, because many of these ideas are still present, and for me it's important to understand the history not only as an accumulation of knowledge, but also as a tool to understand our present and our future. So I try to do this link in almost every chapter. And obviously I didn't do this work alone. Many people helped me in all this trip, but especially the publisher, Ethel Barahona and Cesar Reyes, the translation, and also copy editing, and also he made the correction in Spanish, and was a very nice experience because I never met Daniel, and through the correction of the styling of the Spanish version, he write me things about the book, and was really nice. And also Francesc Polop is the designer and who made the sculpture that is in the front cover, and also he made the photo of mine that is in the inside, and it's a very good friend of mine. And in this case, we have 6 voices that say a few words on the book, and I'm very grateful for these words. So that's my small presentation, just to introduce the theme. And I come back to you. And Claudia, could you remember the question, your question? The micro, Claudia. Claudia.
We cannot hear you, Claudia. Non ti sentiamo, Claudia. Non ti sentiamo.
Scusate, non avevo... passo la parola a Chiara Bellingardi, che voleva fare la prima domanda, e pregherei Zaida di lasciare forse l'immagine dell'indice del suo libro.
Bene.
Chiara, ci sei?
Sì,
Chiara
sì,
Bellicardi, eccola. Tocca
sì,
a te.
yes, I am here. Non so che lingua usare e quindi ne approfitterò e userò l'italiano. Però poi faccio la traduzione per chi non mi capisce in italiano e mi perdonerete del mio inglese terribile. La mia domanda è a proposito della struttura del libro, come non solo quindi come hai scelto e perché, ma anche come è proprio costruito, quali sono le concatenazioni tra i capitoli, ecco. My question is about the structure of the book, with not only about the index itself, but about how, which is the logic behind the subseqution of the chapters.
Thanks, Chiara. Well, I think it's a chronological order, but every chapter you could read one chapter alone, and it has its own logic. It's not necessary to read one in order. And I think that it goes quite natural. If something is natural, it's not natural, but to think to write in the two dimension, no, the one more urban issues and the city scale, and other more due to the domestic issues and to the house, and also because, in fact, I think that at the beginning was maybe more the book was more focused in housing questions, but little by little I have been discovering many other scales, and especially a lot of intervention on women and urban scale. Obviously, as Claudia said, one of my first reading was Dolores Hayden and also Leonie Sandercock, that both talk about urban structure and or from the city scale. So always I have the city on mind, and also because is in which I work, especially here in Barcelona. And one thing that I think that for me is important in the title of the book is that it's not architecture in anywhere, any women architect anywhere, because for me, our women is the knowledge, as I say while I'm reading, what the women have give to our knowledge, share knowledge, without having to account which profession they have, because we can think outside the professions. That's why, and the book is called Women, and no architects or engineer or urban planners, etc.
Sì, io devo dire quello che ho molto apprezzato è tutti i capitoli ovviamente, ma il primo in particolare mi è molto piaciuto. È un capitolo molto breve, però ci parla delle donne che hanno costruito spazi prima del XVIII secolo, e penso sia un omaggio doveroso e sia anche un modo per far vedere che le donne ci sono sempre state nella costruzione dello spazio, non sono comparse improvvisamente nel corso del XX secolo, ci sono sempre state, sono state numerose e nessuno finora le aveva messe in luce, quindi siamo molto contenti di questo lavoro. Adesso darei la parola a Giulia Zacchia, che si era preparata una successiva domanda. Giulia?
Yes, Zaida, thank you so much for your presentation. And I have been, really impressed by, the picture of 1937 when, we have the name of women, I mean, Aino Alto and Alvar Alto together. Since I used to also be involved in the field of researching the history of women economists. So the contribution of women in the history of economic thought. And the most, difficult part of my research is to have name. So to find name, because they usually do not sign the papers, the journal articles. So instead, in this case, in the 30s, what I found really effective is that, women tend to sign their works. But my main question is, how did you select the women in the book? And how did you, approach to create this pantheon of women?
Well, also, as Claudia said at the beginning, it's not an encyclopedic work. There are many other women outside this book, and I think that I choose that women that, from what I read, I don't know if they didn't forgot that they were women. That means they charge a bag with an experience, and from this experience they work. This is one of the things that I try to choose, this kind of professional or women that that this is very visible in the first chapter, because it's not about professionals, university professionals, but not from the experience to the work. And for me, that is important, because still now many times we find women that says, no, I'm not arquitecta, I'm architect, no, arquitecto or arquitecto. And I think that's very important, the A, no? Women architect. In English, you have to add women architect, but in Italian or in Spanish. And I think that bring this A is quite important, because it says many things. You have a different experience because of your body, because of the roles that the society gives to you, and to be able to make a professional apportations of working with these regards. I think that makes a difference. And I don't know, I think that I'm going reading, and I choose also maybe more by heart or by feeling women that I like. It's a very personal selection, but I think that all of them have these characteristics that they didn't negado, they didn't say no to their condition of being a woman.
Vedo che c'è una domanda, una domanda in chat? La leggo io? Sì.
I can, Claudia, it's my question. So
okay, it's your question, Justina.
Yeah.
You can, yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Zaida, first of all, for your book, and I'm really curious to read it. I will do it with pleasure, for sure. I didn't
Thank you, Justina.
read it yet, so that's why my question, which is actually the follow-up question of Julia, because I was wondering what, let's say, area of where did you find these women? They're from all over the world, or you just concentrated on yeah, you made your choice by heart. But I was wondering if there is at least somebody from Eastern Bloc or from Poland, for example, because as far as I know from my research, here we were as women architects, we were privileged in compared to the Western Europe, because we had access because of the communist time to work as everybody. Of course, the recognition, it's the questioning as everywhere. But this was my curiosity. How
yeah. No, I think that's sorry, something else.
And if so, there are some which you found.
No, I think I found later. And I knew, and also I'm studying, I'm making a research here in Catalonia, because the first architect in Catalonia is from Romania. And she's the first women architect that was entering in the colegio, in la ordine di architecti, and she worked at least 15 years, I think, in Romania before coming to Barcelona. But no, really, many people say me, you are not saying nothing about, I don't know, Mexican architects. No, it's not quite academic work. It's just trying to make a kind of, well, obviously the places where there are more examples, because there are more books, many of them at that moment was out of print, and I had to look in different places, are from Anglo-Saxon world, obviously, England and North America. Not because they have more, but because they have more research about that, and especially in the 70s, they published a lot of books at that moment. But anyway, I try to link and all these experiences that maybe are the ones that make the hardcore of the explanation, with experience in other parts of the world, but not so exhaustive, not at all.
So it means it opens the research area.
Yeah, no, I say at the end that it's just the beginning, and hopefully there are a lot of work to do.
Thank you very much.
Bene, abbiamo un programma di lavoro in comune, quindi possiamo portarlo avanti. Io adesso c'è un'altra domanda che avevamo in qualche modo concordata, e quindi chiederei a Stefania Ragozzino di presentarsi e di...
Thank you, Claudia, for the floor. I'm Stefania Raguzzino from National Research Council of Italy. Pleased, Zaida, to see you, and thanks for accepting our invitation. Thanks for your presentation. My question is about the sensation that in your book you told about people, places, and processes that sometimes are not yet or at all seen or recognized element of our society. And could you tell us about your choice not to use images in your book, please? I'm curious about it.
Well, if I understand the first part of your question, I think that the architecture or whatever work or whatever project is not isolated. So you need to understand the social, political, personal, and collective, where they live, and where is the project for what, etc. For that, for me, it's important, all this, the context. And no photograph, because it's very difficult to choose any of all these projects. And also because nowadays you can read the book with the telephone in your hand and look for all these works in the network. The problem is, if you don't know the names, you couldn't go to the network, because we are not going to find anything. But with the names that are in the book, you could find almost everyone and all that works. And it's impossible to have a book with all those information. And also, I want also that the book were very accessible in economical speaking. And if you have images, it's much more expensive. And also, you have to choose some special images, and maybe I don't want to have an album of special images of some women there, another not. So I think that that was a question that many people made me, and also because they say, okay, you are showing that those women, but you are hiding them. But I think that now we can have this to the book and the telephone, and we can look for all this information in the network. And economical decision because of the book. I want a cheapest book as possible. Also the time, because to ask for a lot of permission. Also the decision which project and why, because I don't explain, as you say, I don't explain in deep any project. I explain its situation and evolution. So for me it was not important. But
Thank you, Zaida.
no, thank you,
Grazie.
Stefania.
Sicuramente a questa tua risposta di creare, cioè di dare luogo ad un libro che fosse accessibile, penso che Alessandra Caso ha sicuramente qualcosa da aggiungere, da approfondire proprio in questa direzione, credo.
Excuse me, also there is a hand there, Caterina. I don't know if you want Alessandra first.
C'è una...
Caterina Franchini.
C'è una domanda? Non la
Bueno,
No, there isn't a hand.
she
Raised
raised the
on.
hand. She raised
There is
her
a
hand.
raised hand.
Yeah,
Raised
raised
hand.
Ahí está.
Hello. Yes.
No, non la vedevo io, scusatemi, non so.
Sí, Caterina.
Yes, Zaida, thank you very much for your presentation and for this book. Unfortunately, I couldn't read it yet, so I'm very curious. We are very curious to read it, because we see many things and many names that we know, because we work on the project Momowo for a long time, and it's very interesting, the structure of your book, because it's quite evident that the complexity of this narrative. So we have, you really pointed out so many, the variety and the richnesses of the points and topics, we can say, that are really important for new investigations. And what I think also is, there was a question. So you are probably talking about focusing on Western history. So my question is, because I really don't know if in global histories, so today we in architectural studies, study of urbanism, etc., in the field of world construction, of building construction, I have the impressions that the trends is going to global histories. So how can we balance? So how can we manage our Western history, women Western history, in global histories context, and especially including the other side of the world, not Western but Eastern. So I think about Chinese, for example, China, different cultures, also the Islamic culture. So, and the place of women in this specific culture. And another point that is very interesting for me is you title Modern Pioneers, and very interesting the way you pointed out, the subtitle is Why Do Women Disappear? So this is a big topic, it's a huge one, and maybe so if you like to say something about your opinion or your vision.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Caterina. It's a nice question, and to work on it, very, very interesting. About the first part of the question, the global history and how to include all the others, I think that obviously we need to do a big effort to interlink different moments or the same moment in different parts of the world and trying to see, but not to, because what we find now maybe is in a book of different chapters, people that write from South Africa, from Peru, from India, from China, but everyone from their own point of view or from their own experience. But I think that what the next step need to be to link and to relate the moments and what are the links between these parts, because the globalization is not a new thing. People are moving from from ever. So, but to do that, we need to deconstruct the idea of the center and periphery and trying to build some kind of equal space to talk with the others and understand what is happening in one place another and what are the influences from one to the other. I try to do some of this because I mix, for example, in these Hausers, I speak about three from the north and one from the south. No, there's Catherine Bauer, Elizabeth Denby, and Maria Szydlichowski, and Carmen Portinho from the south. So till I know, I try to make a mix, but as I explained at the beginning, is the first things we need is in each country, for example, China, India, I don't know, they need to do their own research about what happened with their women as Momowo, no? Momowo is about us, and so what happened with that later we can share and maybe see some things that are not as we think, because when we have other reality explained and I say, okay, it's not like that. Okay, for example, Margaret Szydlichowski, she is from Austria. She went to Soviet Union and she worked on China, and they come back and she worked on Turkey and etc. So we have this kind of movement and relation from all over the 20th century, but I think that could be very, very interesting. In fact, there is one architect and one artist, one from Spain and one from Argentina, and they have a very nice project that is, the name I don't like very much, but it's Musas, the avant-garde Musas, and they talk about the women that migrate from one place to other and work, and it's really the focus. I find it's really, really nice of this research. And why women disappear? This obviously during all this work was always on mind. What happened? Why I don't remember? Because all this began because I don't remember any name of architect, a woman architect, or my career. I haven't got any women professor in Barcelona, in Buenos Aires School of Architecture. So I was beginning at the same time with feminist urbanism, but also questioning why I don't know about women. And when you began to read and to look for women, you find that they were there, they are working, and they were well known at the moment they were live. You know, for example, in the modern movement, the women, they were not too much because all the restrictions, but they were there. And what happened later, we only know 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 names of men. No? So, and obviously the thesis of Daniela Arias, that also she went to the Comomo Congress. She tried to explain the mechanism, the psychological mechanism of the disappearance, and also in a way in the books, the women are there, but they are not there, no? Because the way they are seated, how they disappear, or the different way. For example, she had a study very deeper. For example, the Gideon different edition of his book, and for example, he talked about the secretary of the Siam, but not when the woman was a secretary, when the woman was him. And when the secretary was a woman, he didn't say anything. So trying to look for all these things. And the other big challenge we have is to enter in the academy in the in the global knowledge, because the problem is that we still are apart from the rest of the professors, and that's a big problem. Katarina, the microphone.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Alessandra.
I hope we'll have time to speak in the future.
I hope so.
Bene, visto che la storia è sempre stata scritta da uomini, è ovvio che loro hanno cancellato molte presenze femminili. Allora, avevamo Alessandra che doveva fare un'altra domanda.
Yeah, it was programmed. Hello again, Zaida. Thank you for being here. Pity that we have to meet this way and not in person, but one day we will reach also this aim.
Yeah.
The question is related to something you were saying before and something that Claudia was recalling before. This doesn't seem just a book. This seems more a project to share knowledge, a project to spread the knowledge. Actually, you were mentioning the idea of the price and making the cost easier to be affordable to people. And actually, for somebody who hasn't read the book yet, the book can be downloaded by a web page, from a web page, and you don't have a price. You just have to give an offer, which is established by you and not by the publisher. This is a very nice idea that recalls the same idea of the blog that Claudia was mentioning before, Un dia un'architecta, in the sense that it seems more an aim to spread the knowledge, to make somebody more visible to a larger audience than the idea of publishing a book for any purpose a book should have. This is the first question, and after that, allow me, please. When I was younger, there was a musical team who was called Curiosity Killed the Cat. Okay, I am the cat, I am curious. Does the woman to whom we sent the money really exist? Does she really exist? Who is she? Can you tell us something more about somebody to whom we paid some money, but we don't know who she is, and she doesn't appear in your acknowledgements at the beginning of a book? Thank you very much, Zaida, for your answer.
Thank you, Alessandra. But I understand the last part of your intervention. Then.
Well, it doesn't matter. We will re-ask it later. I think it is more important to talk about this idea of distributing the book this way. That seems more the idea, the same idea of the blog, Un dia un'architecta, an idea of spreading knowledge, spreading the names and the figures of these people, these women, and not the idea of writing a book. It seems more than a simple book. Can you explain if we were right or we were wrong?
It's really nice what you say, and I think that is the aim of the book and also the blog. And also I'm editing now another book about a selection of readings on feminists useful for architecture, translated in Spanish, and it's going to be for free in the university editorial page, publishing house page, because I think that it's necessary to go beyond ourselves, and maybe the difference in the different waves of feminism, in the moment of the wave, the feminism and the women has a lot of presence in the media, in the public life, but later on they disappear, we disappear, and all what they have done is almost erased, and we have to begin again. So I think that this wave, maybe it could be different because of all these means that we have at our hands. The blog is obviously we work for free, but we are professors, mostly not all the women in the, not all the people behind the project of Untitled Architect are professors, but most part of us, we are professors. So in somehow we have our money, we eat, and we love to teach, and we understand that we need to spread, no, and to make bigger the base, because if not, the risk to disappear again is there. And as I said in the last question, I think that now the big issue is to introduce these women, other women, the feminist issues, the gender perspective, the non-binary, not this patriarchal view alone. So be inside this, trying to arrive to people that by their own are not going to read a book that says feminist, women, or whatever. I think that also there are two lines. One line saying as feminism, talking from here, but also in another books, for example, I have other books where always I talk about feminism. We if it's a shared book, but we always finally talk about feminism, about equality, but maybe it's not in the title. And at the end, in some chapter, in some moment, you are going to find this way of thinking and of explaining the thing. And maybe from there, people, mainly women, but also men, arrive to this questioning that finally be feminist in academic place is to question this all male panel of knowledge, no, all this only men knowledge, and I like your way of explaining our projects, but I think that yes, it's very important, and also this idea of have that you could download the PDF from the publisher web page without paying was an idea of the publisher, and I think that was marvelous, fantastic, because also, for example, in many places in America, it's very difficult to arrive with books. The books are too expensive. Another thing that we have done is not to print books, but you print, that's the difficult thing, but for example, in Mexico, they print the books in Mexico. In Argentina, they print the books in Argentina. So it's more slowly than the other way, but also we don't print more than we sold. We don't waste paper, and also we don't ship the things, and also we don't pay these stupid taxes, but also we make the thing in the place where they're going to buy. So I think that these my ideas and the publisher ideas went in this direction, no, to make the knowledge closer to the people.
Penso che Zaida, forse adesso puoi togliere l'immagine dell'indice, in modo che ci rivediamo tutte. Mi stavo domandando se c'erano altre domande dalle persone che stanno ascoltando. There are some questions from the people who are attending the conference, the lecture. Perché noi ne abbiamo concordate alcune. No, non nell'immediato. Allora io ne avrei due di domande. La prima è così molto personale. Se all'interno di questa galleria di figure che hai tracciato mettendo l'accento sulle relazioni, sulle interconnessioni. C'è una tua preferita? No? Qual è la tua donna del cuore? E la seconda domanda è una domanda di cui abbiamo già avuto modo di discutere, ma penso sia importante riprenderlo perché aggiunge ogni volta delle riflessioni, è su proprio questa idea della nuova narrazione. Allora, questo tuo libro, che tra l'altro devo dire sinceramente ho molto apprezzato e avrei voluto scrivere io, quindi sono un po' invidiosa, nel senso che mi corrisponde molto, ho trovato. Mi domando però se questa nuova narrazione che noi facciamo da questo punto di vista sia una narrazione necessaria e totalmente innovativa, o se noi possiamo invece immaginarla soltanto come una revisione, cioè un'inclusione di nuove figure dentro una storia dell'architettura o dell'urbanistica, no? Questo credo sia una questione di cui si parla spesso. Dobbiamo scrivere una nuova storia dell'architettura? Forse sì, perché dobbiamo aggiungere un punto di vista diverso. E quindi cominciare dalle donne, ma poi forse anche ragionare su un discorso più ampio. Insomma, quindi abbiamo un bel progetto davanti a noi.
Sì, sì. Grazie, Claudia. If I have to choose one, I already mentioned her, is Margaret Lichowski. But I have many of them I like, but Margaret Lichowski for many things, because of her work, because of her compromise, heretical. I don't know. I think that she has a very long life, so she has time to spare it and not. She was very ethic all her life, and I like as a professional, of lecturer, writer, also political implication, and well, many all her different phases. Obviously, there are others that I like, but if I had to choose one, is she. And I think that we need a new narrative, because it's not only the problem of women, it's a problem of the values that are behind all our Occidental narrative. And in this time of pandemic and crisis, it's still more obvious that we need to revisit and reconsider our background, our philosophical and ethical values that allow Occident or the North to be what it is. And all the narrative, historical narrative, also from that of the architecture, gives fundamentation to our crisis, because what kind of architecture is the one that we value? What kind related with the big money, and I don't know, and all the other things are outside. What is the beauty? And the beauty is possible. The beauty in something that is unuseful in architecture, is that possible? I think no. It's possible the beauty or the architecture with capital A, and something that is useful, very expensive to maintain, that is not in the correct place. It has not into account the energy or the cost of the building and the maintenance. I think that we need to change all that, because we continue to educate our students with the other values, and for that we need to rediscover that alongside all the history, the real history of architecture, there are other things that are not explained, another ways of doing, and I think that is completely new.
Bene, vogliamo alimentare il...
Chiara? Chiara? C'è la...
Io non vedo le mani, quindi prego Giulia di avvertirmi. Non so perché, ma non le vedo.
Io vedo Chiara.
Ah, bene, Chiara?
Non so.
No.
Ah, sì.
No,
No?
non penso I don't think she
Ah,
has the
okay.
hands on.
Ok, sorry.
Bene.
Io inviterei le persone più giovani, anche in italiano. La professoressa Muxi ha parlato inglese, ma l'italiano lo può capire, non abbiate timidezze e fate domande.
Possiamo approfondire questo tema della nuova narrazione, perché richiede forse degli approcci. Allora, è una narrazione che parte da un punto di vista femminista, nel senso che valorizza l'apporto delle donne, ma non necessariamente, diciamo, deve essere connotata in qualche modo, come posso dire, ha una visione più ampia che tende ad essere inclusiva.
Mhm.
E su questo forse potremmo dire qualche altra cosa.
Maria Rita?
Thank you. Thank you all. I wanted to make just a remark. I think it's not a question. I think it's a thing that passed through my mind along this last things that Zaida was saying about this new approach to architecture that is more than a kind of aesthetical or a kind of you know, just building form and construction, and has much more. I think it's a new vision. I think it's not just the historical side of the woman in architecture, but if we look to that kind of side, for instance, my perspective, my small perspective is not very wide, but I think that this more female perspective has much more with the way that we use the space, the way that you feel and use the space, and much more with the functionality and utility than to this more, I would say, not just aesthetical, but a more constructive and formal side. So I wanted just to say that I find this, it's a kind of comment. I find this really important for, let's say, a contemporary vision for the role of women in architecture. I think this is also very connected with climate emergency and other kinds of emergencies, of course, in social and in urban, and in the way that people, or women in this case, but people in general, I think the vision is for all, engage with these other sides. That's a comment.
Yeah, thank you,
It's
Maria
really
Rita.
nice to hear from you then.
Thank you.
Io penso che questa attenzione anche a rendere visibili le donne che hanno lavorato nella costruzione dello spazio, quindi non soltanto progettiste, come diceva Zaida prima, ma anche persone che hanno in qualche modo operato come riformiste, hanno elaborato leggi o hanno scritto dei saggi, insomma sia importante. E questa nuova visione che stiamo condividendo, che Zaida ha reso palese, ma che molte altre studiose stanno portando avanti, insomma, quindi per fortuna non siamo soltanto delle piccole voci isolate, ma cominciamo ad essere una bella rete, perché ci sono studiose che lavorano in questo senso fin dagli anni 70 e quindi cominciamo ad avere un background abbastanza importante. Io penso sia da collegare anche a questa attenzione che abbiamo al quotidiano, alla vita di ogni giorno. Le storiografie del moderno, ad esempio, quelle scritte appunto da Gideon, da tutti questi grandi, diciamo, maestri, hanno sempre messo in luce, no, l'uomo eroico, il grande genio, il maestro, mentre invece questo approccio femminista interessante che si guarda alla vita di ogni giorno e quindi si scoprono anche persone che fanno parte di un gruppo, che non sono, diciamo, le grandi protagoniste o le grandi persone che hanno trasformato gli eventi o anche edificato monumenti nella storia, ma che hanno costruito un contesto nel quale viviamo e hanno reso queste città, no? Questi spazi più accessibili, più piacevoli, più adatti a delle esigenze che si stanno conformando. Quindi questo mi sembra un'attenzione molto importante al quotidiano. Vediamo se c'è...
Sì, Alessandra.
Bene.
Zaida, do you want to answer both questions or what?
No, I want to say what Claudia was saying, that obviously but the problem is that still now in the school they not talk about the real quotidianity. They talk about this idealization of whatever, I don't know, and it's still a problem. And I want to say also that in the book I select these women that for me they work from being a woman. That for me is very important. And in case in Un Día Una Arquitecta, our selection is about good architects, women architects, in all the fronts that architecture have. That is our aim, to show that architecture is not only to build, is to be professor, to write, to research, to be a constructor, to be a promoter, all this. And women that have a good curricula as architects, not looking if they are feminists or if they are conscious of having a different bag with them. So this, for example, is a difference between the two approaches. Alessandra?
Yeah, I would like to stress something that Claudia was saying before, starting from an experience. I have in 2021 seen a draft of the gender plan of Barcelona. Unfortunately, it was not done by Colectivo Cis, but it was done by another women team. And something that comes out very strongly is that this gender perspective is not exactly a feminist city, but it is an inclusive city. I remember some years ago, the first time I met you in Alghero, Zaida, you were stressing the idea of safety in places. I remember, especially about public places. And you were also commenting the design devices we use to make places safer or not. And I think that this gender perspective has shifted from this idea of safety to an idea of inclusiveness. The idea of diversity that you were stressing in the beginning of our presentation today. And I know I am recalling a topic which is very, very important for Claudia. We would add also some idea of care of places. I could see less this idea of care, but very strongly this idea of inclusiveness in the guidelines for gender planning in Barcelona. I would like you to comment this sort of shifting of our gender perspective from the idea of being victims to the idea of being characters and living together in diversity, also with safety, of course, but all together in public space. I think, and it is, I know, something that you pay very much attention, a matter of publicity, a matter of making the space more public. So I would like you to comment this idea, and if you can observe the same shift from an initial perspective only related to be victims and to feel safer to this other idea.
Yeah. I have to say that from the beginning, I don't like too much that focus on safety. This was, but at the beginning, when we began to talk about gender and urban issues in Spain and in Catalonia in particular, especially in Spain, Catalonia is not too much about safety, but for example, in Euskadi, the focus was, or in Madrid or Andalusia, much more focus on security. I don't like that because of that, because it's making us fragile. We are not fragile. It's the surrounded what make us fragile or fragilize us, or the patriarchal society. So I always refuse to do such a specific work about safety, and we many times we explain at the beginning that safety is the conjunction of many things, but it's not a thing by itself. But also at the beginning, many municipalities was really a very big issue and easy issue and political. They have good reports. No, if they made a safety walk and they mark some places and they make some intervention, was really easy, but it's not that the point. And now in Barcelona, obviously, have had a big shift from this gender, much more in the basis, in the population, in the group of women. And now we have from 6 years till now, we have a feminist government, and the gender and feminist issues are must be in all the policies that the city made. And well, and it's another chat, and also was more or less about that, what I talked in Roma in October. That is about this this idea of the caring city, and not only with the hard work in the city, but also with the soft. No, that is very important. The city is not made only by bricks and stones. It's only what the flesh, and that is what is they are working in Barcelona in this supporting the caring task and giving permanence in the politics, that urban policies that they are doing. Obviously, for the establishment, it's a crazy thing, because they don't want all that pacification and having better cities, because they think they lost their rights. But well, we are there now.
Volevo solo dire che questo tema della cura e dell'inclusione, Zaida l'ha citato in maniera non diretta, ma ben evidente, quando ha detto in una delle slide che non ha fatto il libro da sola. Il libro non è stato fatto da solo. Tant'è vero che leggo un commento di aspettate che lo stavo ritrovando, non so se c'è ancora.
Gabriella, la traduttrice, è andata via.
Gabriella, una traduttrice, che dice: grazie per aver citato il lavoro anche della traduzione, che di solito passa, no? Passa sempre. Quindi è un libro che è tangibile, mette in evidenza come si lavora insieme, ecco, che non è un lavoro appunto condotto in maniera isolata, ma che prevede l'apporto di tante persone. Bene.
Penso che abbiamo da lasciare, perché
chi legge dunque?
There are many people who are saying goodbye to us. Yeah.
Noi avevamo immaginato di rimanere fino alle 18:30, quindi praticamente siamo in orario, però sollecito ancora qualcuna, insomma, a prendere la parola e a fare qualche altro commento, se volete. Magari a rilanciare un progetto insieme, di approfondire, visto che abbiamo Maria Rita che Maria Rita Pais che è presente dal Portogallo, abbiamo Justina Borusca che è presente dalla Polonia, non so se ci sono quindi altre nazionalità, e quindi sarebbe bello poter approfondire le storie di questi, diciamo, di questi paesi. Thank you very much. Maria Brighi, ok.
Claudia, allow me please to stress that the words we were mentioning before, not only safety, but especially diversity and care, for us, our own main keywords. We prepared some research projects in which we would like to enlarge our network and involve also our friends who come from abroad, not only like Zaida, but especially like Maria Rita. You have a strange surname, it seems from Sardinia, from my island, but it doesn't matter. And Justina and the other friends, we would like to go on researching in depth these themes as applied to placemaking in a more inclusive way, and let me see, in a perspective of common good, of public space as a common good in which we can live together. So I would like you to involve in this discussion about these topics, if you agree, even now. Sorry, Claudia, for taking the word.
No, anzi, bene, non lasciate concludere me. Ho parlato fin troppo, quindi vorrei...
Io vorrei che loro adesso discutessero con noi di questi aspetti che potrebbero essere il germe di un altro lavoro comune, fatto non solo di libri, ma di anche un lavoro sul campo. Sorry, I was saying it in Italian.
So if we can just start our discussion right now about the future project, it's very promising since, for example, now we are working on a project which is together with Rita and with Claudia, which is facing the climate change and the changes, but this is something which is obvious for everybody. And this gender perspective, at least what I've observed in Poland, it's something which is hardly recognized, or something which we would like to just to put on the side and not discuss. So even now, when we are working on one placemaking project here in Gdańsk, which concerns the marketplaces, this is everything about, you know, social issues, about the inclusiveness, but this gender perspective always it's like forgotten. So this is something which opens, you know, possibility to discuss and to research. So I see the great opportunity, and, you know, to profit from our common work in the future.
Sì, mi sembra che le parole di Justina siano interessanti perché vanno oltre il rendere visibili le donne, che è già un bel progetto, ma che permeano un po' tutta la ricerca, nel senso è il nostro essere consapevoli delle ricchezze che portiamo, del nostro sguardo, che ci consente di aggiungere qualità allo spazio che abitiamo. Quindi su questo mi sembra molto importante. Bene, noi abbiamo rispettato il nostro orario. Vorrei magari lasciare l'ultima parola a Zaida prima di chiudere, magari lanciando una nuova... A che cosa stai lavorando adesso? Qual è il tuo prossimo libro?
Non so.
Non sai ancora.
No, ho fatto alcune nuove, ho approfondito in alcuni nuovi personaggi. Quello per esempio un'altra che mi è piaciuto molto al libro e che adesso ho cercato di più è Sylvie Moholy-Nagy, and also all the I don't know in what I'm talking. Also, anche le linee las paisajistas, that also there is a very nice way of understand the focus on the landscape that were made by women. And because, for example, I made a lecture during the summer, and I began with this house of the two cousin Maria Jane and Jane Parmentier, I think, I don't remember the name, but they made a house that has 16 faces. But it's not only the house also has small houses for animals in it. And I guess that the women never think about only the human beings, but also about all the others, not only the others between us. And I think that is also a good camino to follow, but I don't know.
And nature also, not just animals, nature also.
Yeah.
I feel that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for inviting me for this session. It was very nice, and it was nice to answer the question also, and you prepare. And Claudia, I'm really grateful with your work.
Siamo molto contente di averti avuto e speriamo di poterlo, diciamo, di fare qualche altra cosa assieme a te in presenza al più presto. Bene, grazie ai partecipanti, vi salutiamo e vi invitiamo. Giulia, qual è il prossimo seminario di Minerva Lab? Puoi lanciare la programmazione così facciamo un po' di pubblicità. Sei senza audio, Giulia. Non hai l'audio, Giulia? Non ci sentiamo? Sei senza microfono?
Giulia, hai spento il microfono proprio come tasto, dovresti accendertelo da Zoom.
Ci siamo vabbè, rimarremo con rimarremo con lo scoop da fare per il prossimo seminario di Minerva Lab, non ce lo ricordiamo. Vi ringraziamo, vi salutiamo, grazie a Zaida per aver parlato in una lingua che non è la sua e che è una lingua comune, anche in questo è un segno di cura. E grazie a tutte quelle che hanno partecipato. Qui c'è tutta una cosa. Ecco, abbiamo Giulia sta mettendo in chat il prossimo seminario. Dunque,
il 27 January, lo Stato Sociale alla CaSa.
Bene.
Francesco Farina.
Andiamo a servirci. Ok, arrivederci, grazie a tutti.
Grazie.
Ciao.
A presto.
Grazie.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Alessandra, recuerdos a la isola.
In che sentido?
Puoi togliere la registrazione adesso.